get started then. Hi everyone, welcome to Get the Most Out of Your Enterprise Knowledge with Copilot Studio. My name is Julie Cosmano, and joining me today is Rakesh Krishnan, and we are from the product team at Microsoft. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so over the last year or so, there's been a transformative paradigm shift, from apps as UI to Copilot as UI, from workflows to agent. And now the key thing of this is how do we think about converting data from data to knowledge? Now, the challenge with that is that data is usually siloed and also come in variety of different formats. And if you look at the stats here, 68% of enterprise data goes unused, and we're estimating about 1 billion number of apps will generate more data. Now, the question is, how can we have an agent bring all this enterprise data together to unveil business insights? And the simple answer is Copilot Studio. So with Copilot Studio, you can create an agent and also convert this data to knowledge very easily. So all the RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, embedding and factorization implementation, we do that for you under the hood. You do not have to do it. All you got to do is point and click to the data sources, and we'll convert them from data to knowledge, ready for your agent to answer questions from your business users. And we've got some enthusiast Copilot Studio here, very good. All right, so if you look at the Copilot Studio components of an agent here, you probably noticed a couple of, probably just like one new thing, which is triggers, but overall we have instructions, knowledge, actions, topics, and triggers. But the focus of today's discussion is just knowledge.
Yeah, so when we talk about knowledge, it's really about the enterprise data and how you transform that enterprise data into knowledge, right? And the knowledge comes in all spectrums, right? All the way on one hand, you have productivity data from Office, right? Like your emails, Teams chats, calendars, etc. And then you have a lot of unstructured files that your employees might be using in their laptops and desktop, which contain a lot of valuable pieces of enterprise knowledge, right? Then you have your line of business system data, your CRM data, their ERP data, and this includes both Microsoft as well as non-Microsoft services, right? And on the farthest end, you have your analytical workloads, which are often found in Azure, in Microsoft Fabric, and then other pro-code assets that are available in Azure AI Search and Azure SQL. So what we are going to talk about here, and what you're going to show in a series of demos over the next half an hour or so is really how knowledge in Copilot Studio brings all these disparate sources of knowledge into one single platform where you can, in a truly low-code manner, add all these enterprise knowledge sources as your grounding data for your Copilots. So with that, we're going to see a lot of live demos today, and we're going to do it. We're going to get a little adventurous. We're going to do a lot of live demos from our pre-prod environments where we have some of the most advanced, most newer things happening. So you're going to see how you are able to add all these different knowledge sources through the Copilot Studio knowledge interface. So I'll hand it off to Julie to kick off the first set of demos.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Rakesh. So we do have 3 sets of demos. The first one is I'm going to show you from the productivity data side of things, which is SharePoint as well as file uploads. Now, some of you probably are already familiar with this. We are going to show you what's new or what's the latest that is announced at Ignite. Let me just switch to this. All right. Okay, so the scenario that I have here is pretend I'm a salesperson and I have Rakesh here who's my boss, he's my sales manager. And I've told him, hey, we should create an agent to help our sales colleagues' productivity or sales team's productivity. So as such, I've created this sales buddy agent, and I've also configured a couple of things. So as an example here, let me just scroll down. So I've actually uploaded a couple of PDF files that I think are very important for sales team. So from knowing who's who, which is the org chart, and then also what's the plan for sales, and also some training information or training artifacts that the team has put together. So let's take a quick look in the knowledge overview here. So I'm just going to click on Add Knowledge. So this is probably something that you'll get excited with, which is with SharePoint, you now can choose folders and files. So let's take a look here. So I can choose IT Help Desk as an example, choose a couple of, I can mix folders and files, by the way. So I'm choosing archive folder as well as a file here and click on Confirm Selection. All right, so now one file and one folder have been added and name and descriptions have already been provided. And then you can simply click Add just to add this SharePoint as knowledge sources to your agent. So since I've already added one before, so I'm gonna leave out of this dialog. Let me go to the Amazing Sales Training, which is the one that I've created or that I've configured earlier. So if I open this up, this actually opens the folder, and it has just one file for now. So the other files that I've already uploaded are Contoso Sales Plans and Org Chart. Let's take a look at the org chart. It looks something like this, and then the sales plan looks something like this. There's actually quite a lot of text on the top as well, by the way. Now, I'm ready to test my sales buddy, or almost. Let me just show you the new bit that you might get excited about the file upload. We are supporting up to 512 megs of file. So if I go to my folder here, just drag and drop, it's as simple as that, right? So if you want to use your files, you can just drag and drop, and again, it supports up to 512 megs of file. I'm going to cancel out of this because I've got all the knowledge sources that I need for the first set of questions that I wanted to test with. So, as a new person joining the team, what do you think is the important questions? Probably who's the boss, right? So let's ask, who is my sales VP? So this question should be answered from the org chart. So here I have Clara Barbosa. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Clara Barbosa is the sales VP. So that question was actually answered from the org chart. So I don't have any text. It was just based from image. And the next questions that I want to test here is perhaps the training that this Clara Barbosa is supporting. So let's say describe training for a salesperson, sponsored by Barbosa. So this question should be answered based on the, let me take a look here, should be answered from the sales training folder. So we do actually have one file. So it will go through the PowerPoint file here and try to summarize the sales training that is sponsored by Clara Barbosa here. So it's still waiting. So under the hood, this question is actually using, or the answer of this question is actually using graph technology under the hood. Looks like the answer has come up. So let me just kind of scroll up here a little bit. Wow. The training for salesperson here, actually sponsored by Barbosa, and they get to go to so many different countries. How awesome is this? I think this sales VP is very generous. And as a new salesperson, you're probably going to go, all right. I wonder how big the travel budget is for this department, right? So maybe we can ask, how's Barbosa travel budget compared to other departments? Let's just scroll down a little bit. Now, this question is actually a tricky one, by the way, which comes out pretty fast, surprisingly, which is nice. The first one here, it actually comes from both combining this file that has the org chart as well as the sales plan here. Now, in this sales plan document, towards the end, there's an appendix where I actually have a bar chart that says sales and then the actual budget. And in none of this PDF file, let me see if I can Control F and type in Barbosa. There's nothing. There's no word Clara Barbosa or the sales VP whatsoever in this document, but it manages to combine the information from two files together to answer that question about what is Barbosa's travel budget compared to other departments. Very cool, right? Yes? Thank you. All right, awesome. All right, I think we're ready to switch to. All right, so just to recap a little bit here, I've shown you SharePoint, which is already GA. It supports sites, pages, and files, which is super awesome, and you can easily use the file picker to choose the different files and folders. And also, you've seen file uploads. And now within the file uploads, so for example, you have PDF files like I've shown you today. If you have images, that will be supported as well. So you can use that for your agent to reason over these images inside those PDF files. We support up to 512 megabytes per file, and also hundreds of files per agent is also supported. Now I'd like to hand over to Rakesh, who's going to talk next about the line of business data demo.
All right. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through how easy it is to add line of business knowledge to your Copilot, right? So when you say line of business, typically talking about enterprise systems like your CRM or ERP applications. It could be both Microsoft and non-Microsoft, right? So in this case, so first we'll walk through how you can add that knowledge, and then we'll see how it performs in a runtime mode, right? So the way you add is very simple. You click on the Add Knowledge model within Copilot Studio, and you see Dataverse right here. So in this particular case, for my this sales organization, the support tickets are actually stored in Microsoft Dataverse, right? So I'm going to add that as knowledge to begin with. So I'm going to add, because I'm going to add account, I'm going to add contact, because these are very important for any support information. I'm going to add support. So I can see the list of selected tables here. Then when I click on next, I'm able to see a preview of the table. So it essentially gives you a shape of the data that will be added as in knowledge. So I can just filter for different tables that I have selected. So you get a sense of, okay, what kind of data that I'll be added, right? In the next step, then I can give it a name and a description to kind of help for better, not only for better auditing purposes, but also for helping the orchestrator, which is powering Copilot Studio, better track the right knowledge sources at the runtime. So the more accurate or the more to the point description and name you provide, the better the performance you will see at runtime. Before I go ahead and add this one, I want to show a couple of different things, right? So we have support for something called synonyms and glossaries within Dataverse knowledge, right? For example, if I come here and I can select a particular table and let's say support tickets, let's say this column called account, right? Account could be called as client name, client name or something else, right? So what it enables you to do is that you can actually kind of create different variants of the same the custom tabular data that you're using to help the system understand the user utterance better. In addition, we have another support for things called glossary as well. So glossary is like, it could be very company-specific things that are not often found in general knowledge, right? So for example, in this case, I'm going to say SEV1. SEV1 refers to critical value in the support tickets table. I can say for priority column. So as many of you might know, right, when you create a support ticket, you might have different values, but people often call it SEV1, SEV2, SEV3s. So this essentially enables you to create those kind of very specific nuances that may be applicable to your specific organization. So I'm going to create a couple of one, like SEV1 refers to critical, SEV2 refers to high. You have critical, high, medium, low that are typically added in the system. So that's how you can configure your knowledge source, right? At this point, I'm not going to, as Julie was showing you earlier, I have the agent that has the different knowledge sources added. So I'm not going to go add it again. So I'm just going to cross out of this one. So the idea is to give a flavor of how you can add a line of business system like data versus knowledge, right? And once you add it, then it takes a few minutes for the system to perform the indexing of the metadata, so to help answer the question. So that's another reason why we don't have time to go through that. Before I go further, this is where I want to highlight something that we announced this week at Ignite. So this support for tabular data sources extends to non-Microsoft services as well, right? So in this particular case, for Contoso, the opportunities and leads are in Salesforce, right? So now in the same interface, in the same manner, I can go ahead and add a Salesforce knowledge source to this agent. So it's going to use the same Power Platform connector ecosystem that are used for performing actions and use the same connector infra and approaches for this one as well. So I'm going to, since I have a connection created, you see the green check mark here, so I'm going to click next. And this is where I'll be able to select the tables. So very similar to what you saw in the Dataverse scenario, I can go and search for tables and add them. So leads, opportunity, the two ones, and almost exactly similar to what you saw in Salesforce. You'll see a preview of these tables, leads, opportunity. So again, just to give you a sense of the data. And again, you can give a name and description for this one and go from there. So I'm going to cross out of this one so that we can do some fun live demos, right? So let me ask, as a salesperson, right? So I'm as a new salesperson. So I'm going to ask, show me opportunities above 100,000. So the system is going to go find the right one. So a couple of things are going to happen here, right? Because I added this Salesforce-based knowledge source already, the system knows that opportunities are configured as part of Salesforce. So I need to go invoke this Salesforce knowledge source, right? So that's the first part. The second part is, now we're talking about sales opportunities above a certain number, right? So it is transforming that user utterance into a natural language and then finding the right answer. So as you see, it gives a summary and looks like there are like 16 sales opportunities available. As a new salesperson, that's a little overwhelming for me. So I'm just going to ask even more similar. I'm just going to ask the system to narrow it further down. So I'm going to ask, show me only those above 250,000 and based in New York, right? I'm just going to add more conditions to it. So notice a couple of things are happening here. It's actually a little more complex query. And then the other thing is that it's a multi-turn conversation. Notice how I did not specify opportunities here. I just said only those. So it knows the context that I'm talking in the context of opportunity and is able to kind of stitch together or the whole process, the whole thing in a single conversational context. And then more importantly, it's actually joining two different tables in Salesforce, because if you're working in a CRM, like your opportunities is in one table, your contact details are often in a different table. So it knows that it needs to join across these two tables and perform this query and give a response. So if I click on, so as you can see, looks like I have one sales opportunity that kind of fit this one. And all of these things come with the citation, right? So if I click on the citation, it's going to take me directly to the Salesforce console if I want to go get more details about this particular opportunity, right? So that's just a flavor of how you can add a line of business knowledge, to your agent, right? Notice we added both the support tickets and the knowledge, support tickets and opportunities in the prior one, right? So I'm going to ask something. Okay, now that as a salesperson, I know I have one golden opportunity where I can go ask this particular opportunity. So before I ask, I need to have a good sense of, hey, did United Oil raise any support tickets in the past 3 months? Because I do want to make sure that, hey, how is the relationship that Contoso has with United Oil? Is this, looks like I have a typo, so I might have to do it again. The system is able to figure out the typos and get it. So as you can see, it's able to find out that, hey, there are actually 7 tickets that were logged in the last 3 months, right? And another thing to notice is that I'm asking in a very different kind of, hey, did something ask? Show me this, right? So it gives you a sense of like how you can engage in a very natural conversation with the agent and how the system would be able to kind of pass through different, these two different conversational contexts and provide you the right response. So and now I'm going to ask a follow-up question like, show me where are there any SEV1 or SEV2 other, say active, no, SEV2 tickets from United Oil. So since I had added the glossaries and synonyms before, the system is able to parse that SEV1 translates to, hey, it is critical, or SEV2 translates to high, and do the corresponding, do the query system accordingly. And not only that, what you could see is that in the same context, it's able to ask this follow-up question and engage with the user in a continuous manner, right? Looks like the system is taking a little bit time in this particular case. Maybe there are no tickets. Okay, looks like there is a SEV1 ticket from this particular customer, right? So you can actually click on this one and get full details of this and go further. But the other thing I want to again call out is that the actual customer name is United Oil and Gas Corporation. I never had to use it. I just used, hey, are there anything from United Oil? And due to the annotations that our system, annotations and schema linking operations that our system provides, it's able to kind of stitch all these together and then provide the right response to the user, right? So that's on the line of business systems, and you could, as you can see, you could go further. And what we announced this week was, in addition to Dataverse, you have support for Salesforce, ServiceNow, and Zendesk as well. So if any of you are using these enterprise systems within your company, give it a try and see how well Copilot Studio is able to bring all these things together and then and make your agents richer, right? With that, I'll switch it back to the presentation. So this is what I was just going over, right? There's these enterprise knowledge sources that we just announced. There's a few things to take away here, right? One key thing that I want to call out is that in this case, there is no data movement. Your customers, your data resides in the place where it currently resides. We are not moving data to Microsoft Cloud on this one. What we are doing is we are using only the metadata and creating semantic index over the metadata to convert the user utterance into either a SQL statement or some API call that the system understands and execute that query in real time. So this gives you a real-time knowledge that queries across relational tables within your system. And most importantly, it honors all the security and the roles that you have configured on your source system, because everything works on end-user auth. So if Julie has set up something and I don't have access to certain tables or certain records, I won't get answer from the source systems, even if I ask very, very pointed questions to that. So it is secured by default and runs only on end-user auth. So with that, we'll just move to the next section, which is basically the third set of demos on the third pillar that we want to talk about. It's really about how we kind of bring in the Procode assets, Procode assets together, right? So I'm going to start with Azure. So in my case, let's say there are many customers who have built a lot of assets in Azure. So one of them is you might have Azure AI Search, and who have built search indexes on Azure AI Search, right? You could put your documents, your other unstructured data, whether it's markdown file and everything in a blob storage, and you could generate an index out of it. So in this particular case, I have an Azure subscription with a resource that has a number of different indexes, right? You could see, right? So what we announced this week, and now it's available in preview, is that now you will be able to kind of use this same index that you built in Azure directly in Copilot Studio, right? So let's take a look. So again, the experience is almost exactly similar. You click on Add Knowledge, you'll see an Azure AI search tile here. Here you'll see you can provide a name and description to this particular one, and it uses the Azure AI Search connector. So in this case, I have already made a connection. So I'll see the check mark. If not, you'll have to create a connection in a couple of seconds. And when I click next, what you'll see is that you'll see all the indexes this particular connection or this particular user has access to in that particular Azure resource. So in this case, I had a few resources already created. So there is a sales wiki that kind of just dumps all the past sales data and past summaries of past client deals. And somebody has generated an Azure index out of it to be used in different Procode assets, right? So now you are able to select those, and you'll see some information about how many documents are there, like what's the size and everything. And I can add this directly to my knowledge source here. But since I've already added them, I'm just going to cross out of this one. So as you can see, there is an Azure AI search index already created. So I'm going to ask, what are the key sales learning from oil and gas companies, oil and gas industry, I should say. And I'm going to say if there are any specific learnings from past deals at United Oil and Gas, summarize them. Right. I don't trust my typo, so let's see how it works. So what happens is that the RAG happens on the Azure side, and Copilot Studio makes it very easy or literally a 2-click wait for you to bring that index over to Copilot, your agent that is built through Copilot Studio. And as you could see, then it is actually giving you the summary, and and it gives a summary, and you can see the citation that's coming from Azure AI Index. And it gives you the summary basically on the specific learnings that you had from United Oil. It looks like there were some past issues. So as a salesperson or as a new salesperson, now you can use the single agent to kind of just walk through the entire process. As you saw, you not only saw what trainings are available to you, who is your organizational president, but also how do you do your day-to-day job better, right? Understanding your opportunities, figuring out how volatile or how calm the relationship with that customer might be based on support tickets, and what are the past learnings that he could leverage that from Azure AI Index, right? All of these are brought together in a single seamless platform through Copilot Studio and knowledge in Copilot Studio. So that's why, and all of these are available for you to try. So if you haven't tried some of this before, we highly encourage you to go try it out, right? And before I end, I want to just highlight a couple of things as well that are also available. So when you talk about the Procode assets, you can also add a Fabric AI skill. Looks like I did something wrong. The Fabric AI skill is in private preview. Maybe there's a reason it's in private preview. So essentially the idea is that if you have a Fabric workspace, you can actually create different AI skills directly from your Fabric workspace. So similar to what you saw in Azure AI Search, once you build a skill and publish it from the Fabric interface, Copilot Studio enables you to bring that in a very seamless manner. You should be able to see, based on the connection you have, the different skills that are available to you, and you can select one or more and then add as knowledge to your Copilot. So that's that's when we talk about the integration of the no-cliff experience between pro-code and low-code. This is a prime example of that, what we have today. And finally, let me just switch back to the presentation. So just to recap, so what we saw was, this is currently in preview, Azure AI Search, where you can bring your vector indexes that are already available directly as knowledge to your agents. Not only that, there's one more preview that we haven't actually had the time to demo, but Azure SQL. If you are using Azure SQL in your organization, you will be able to add that also as knowledge to your agent. And similar to the experience that you saw with Dataverse and Salesforce, you can seamlessly connect to different databases within your Azure SQL instance, select the tables, get a preview of those data, add synonyms, glossary, and do all of those things that you saw with Dataverse directly through Azure SQL. So with that, we're just going to wrap up the demo portion of our presentation. So bringing back to this one, right? So as you saw, right, the knowledge in Copilot Studio really spans the whole spectrum, right? Irrespective of wherever the data is, we enable you to, using this platform, convert those data into knowledge so that you can build very smarter agents so that your organization as a whole can be more productive. With that, I'll hand it back to Julie. Oh.
Okay, sure. Thank you. All right, awesome, folks. So, but just don't take our words for this, based on just the demo from us, right? We actually have invited Mike Walker here, who's the Chief Innovation and Technology Officer from Peppermint. Give a good clap, yeah. Based in UK, actually, and he's going to show how his team has built a powerful agent to help, I believe, lawyers. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. All right.
That's right. So just quick info. We're an ISV who delivers software for law firms globally. My job is, as Chief Innovation and Technology Officer, is primarily to try and understand and appreciate the technology that Microsoft bring and connect it to lawyers, which is quite an achievement when you think technophobes are lawyers, without a doubt. I've just noticed there's some friends in the front room here. So what I've done is I've done a demonstration to try and call out the benefits really ultimately of how a lawyer, basically as a user of Copilot Studio, is able to describe in instructions in natural language, basically to give the role of the agent, understand and explain their personal injury claims assistant, then describes how the content is related to the knowledge that is allowing them to facilitate updating, looking up government agencies and information, and then assembling information and helping her do PI claims in a more efficient way. Ultimately, then, taking that information and describe that in just simple English is then able to go to the knowledge store and then connect various sources of information, such as car accident report claims, personal injury claims, and then the compensation data coming from Dataverse, from our application. She describes basically what that information is in English that helps the generative AI actions take ability to understand it, and then finally links in actions to then look at the DVLA registration, which is a government agency system that we have as a connector to allow them to connect that information together. So as a lawyer, she's able to then use the test agent to describe and understand and test the agent, but then she wants to share it with her friends. Goes to channels, clicks on Teams, and then is published into Teams. So not only is she getting the benefit, but her colleagues are also going to get the benefit from it. So here in Teams, I want to create a report for an accident between these two registration numbers and also look up information about severe broken leg. So as a claims agent, what's going to actually happen here, it's going to go off to all the different knowledge sources and assemble that information together with just no code. It's just strings of text. It's looking up the government agency through the connector to find out the car details. It's looking up the claims history in regards to how likely I'm going to get, what level of money I'm going to get for the customer who's actually going through the PI claim. I then have other information that I'm also going to do in regards to the accident, and then click on draft an email. But now, as you can see here, it's actually summarized that into details about the cars, summarizing actually information about the accident and the value of what you're likely to be able to claim. Then you can click on draft claim email and actually go into an email with a beautifully drafted email that has been taking all of that information into one response. Now, there was no code involved in this. Ultimately, this is something a lawyer has been able to generate and then reuse it. This is something that takes 40 to 50 minutes every time to do that job. she can now share that not only with her colleagues, but that amount of time and also that quality is quite consistent. And that is one of the great examples of what we've been using in Copilot Studio by leveraging knowledge and then assembling it with no code is really a game changer in regards to our enablement of lawyers who are not technical people to be able to utilize this technology going forward. So yeah, really excited about the opportunity going forward. We're thinking about this in many different ways of providing that connection to knowledge and then bringing it into something that's really just simple to consume and publish into Teams is a great extension for us. So on that, I'll hand you back over to Julie. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. All right, folks. We're just about towards the end of the presentation today. Just to recap, you've seen how we've shown you how you can create an agent and add different kinds of knowledge sources or data sources. So essentially from productivity data, using SharePoint files, as well as the line of business data. Rakesh showed you earlier how we use Dataverse, Salesforce. Also, you can do that for ServiceNow and Zendesk as well. And lastly, ProCode Asset. So actually, quick questions. How many of you are using Azure AI Search today? All right,
wow.
A pretty decent amount. How about Azure SQL? Yeah, very cool. All right. So all these investments that you've had in Azure, as an example, you can now also leverage that or those into your Copilot Studio in your agents, right? So very nice there. All right. Just to also kind of bring it up to, I guess, what's the latest or what's new in knowledge that you've seen in Ignite. If you have followed us, the journey of Copilot Studio and knowledge since build, the latest things that we've shown you today were the SharePoint file uploads, the increased limit of the file uploads, and also the Salesforce, ServiceNow, Zendesk, those are new as well. And next, Pro Devs. So I've seen a few hands up earlier today when we were talking about the Azure Bits. Pro Devs now can leverage the existing investments to bring more data easily in Copilot, so in Copilot Studio. And lastly, this is coming soon, very exciting. If you were in Mike Basandi's and Jen Kogel's session yesterday, there's actually, I think he showed a little bit of this tuning, which is built-in advanced knowledge tuning. So where you can get knowledge recommendation, you can find and fix gaps on that kind of knowledge or unanswered questions. Yep, thank you, Rakesh. So this is what it looks like, where you can add knowledge sources. And then the next one is the improve answer rate. So that's where you can start using prompts to improve your knowledge quality or the answer quality. And then lastly, the analytics part. And that will show you how well your agent actually used knowledge sources when you deploy that there, in the wild in the Teams channel, which is, Teams channel is actually one of the most popular ones that I've heard so far during this Ignite conference, where a lot of people are actually using Teams channel a lot to deploy their agents. So it's pretty cool, like you saw earlier from Mike Walker's demo.
Yeah. So advanced tuning is coming soon. So we're really excited to see early feedback from early customers and see how we can really apply it at scale.
Yep. All right. So these are some of the references. This is the take your pick slide, right? Where you can, if you're new to Copilot Studio, you can try Copilot Studio, k.ms, try Copilot Studio here. Some of documentations and blogs that you can check out. We've refreshed the knowledge public documentation, so you can go to the ak.ms Copilot Studio knowledge. And this session recording, you can rewatch it, share it with your friends, family, hopefully. And other announcements is also listed on that Power Platform Security and Governance blog. And lastly, because we are doing quite a lot of investment on knowledge in the next few months, we want to invite folks to join early access preview. So if you're willing to give this a go, please join the early access preview, and we'll connect with you and get your feedback from there. Anything to add, Rakesh?
No,
Before we wrap it up?
Yeah, given the number of hands that went up for Azure AI Search and Azure SQL, really excited to see more people try out new features. And give us feedback so that we can make the products even better for you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So I know it's already the Thursday of the Ignite conference, right? So I wanted to show this slide mostly because if you want to learn more about Copilot Studio or some of the investments that our team or teams, product groups have worked on, feel free to check out the recordings. I'm gonna leave it for a couple more seconds in case folks want to take pictures. All right. And don't forget, the booth is still open, so Rakesh and I will be there for a little bit at the booth, so hopefully we get to see you there as well. And let's say thank you so much for joining this session. Really appreciate you all.
Thank you. Thank you all.